Welcome to Matters Podcast, where we have unfiltered conversations about the that really matters.
Welcome to Shit Matters Podcast. I'm your co-host, Michael Burst, with these beautiful, handsome men. Beautiful, not beautiful. You're handsome.
Whoa, yeah.
You're handsome men. Excuse me. Brandon, Josh, and Kenny. How y'all guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing good. Kenny got his Dare shirt on. No, damn well he broke all them rules.
This shit's a throwback. This is 1998 vintage.
That thing should be retired. That's retired.
But cheers, man. Cheers. Started off right. Everybody had a good day.
Great day.
Any highlights?
I'm going to the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in 4 days. Hence the shout out Phillies. I'm going to catch a Phillies game. I'm going to see Cope in person. Get some drinks for old time's sake. And,
You get a Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah, we'll probably get a cheesesteak.
That's a tourist thing, man.
No. Yeah, because I'm about to have a hot take. I was very disappointed when I went to Philadelphia, and I tried 5-6 different places that everybody said to go to. Someone start with a D?
Del Sandro's.
That one was closed. Whatever. That motherfucker was closed. It was closed, but the one across the street from it was open, and it was I didn't go to none of the tourist joints that everybody go to. They said it was whack. But I went to a spot downtown, went to a few spots in the suburbs. And it tastes like a regular ass Philly that you can get anywhere.
And so many copycats out there, right? So like you go to Charlotte, they're gonna say it's the Philly cheesesteak, and whoever seasons the best is gonna be the best. Like it's too many copycats.
My point is, when you go to somewhere as a staple, you are expecting the best.
Hey, I don't want to front load. I don't want to front run this episode, but a really quick story. The power of connection. Cope and I lived together for about, 11 months in Philly. Yeah. And we would go out every Friday, Saturday. And there would be a guy, we called it the tent. It'd be this old guy that's just slinging cheesesteaks right in the middle of all these bars. And the power of connection, Cope befriended this guy, became really good buddies and got free fries. He hustled this guy for free fries for like 7 months straight. But power connection, he became his best bud, and he's slinging these free cheesesteaks and french fries.
We had them cheesesteaks sober one time. Them things was horrible.
Terrible.
We was smacking them though after the bars.
Look, the power of connection. Good transition. Today, we're talking about the power of connection. And also the power of just being vulnerable as well. I think we are in a space and time where connection is lacked. Human connection is lacked in certain aspects for a variety of reasons, whether it's through, political division, loneliness, technology, who knows. But connection is very important. There's something that I found that I wanted to kind of share and read. I think would tie into this around the importance of connection, primarily social connection. And it says it's important around mental health, physical health, overall life satisfaction, even life expectancy as well. But around mental health, it says social connections can help reduce anxiety and depression. It can increase self-esteem and improve empathy. That part is important. Increase self-esteem and improve empathy. It can also help people regulate their emotions and build trusting relationships. So that part right there in itself is a big one. Physical health. It says social connections can improve the immune system and act as a buffer during difficult times. As far as life satisfaction, it says social connections can contribute to a more fulfilling and happy life and can improve educational attainment and workplace performance. In terms of communities, it says it can help build healthier, safer, and more prosperous communities. So in those areas right there, I mean, it sounds like social connection is pretty good. Now, obviously, not all connection is good connection. You can have some bad connections too. You got to decipher between that piece. But all in all, if we're talking about those areas, particularly the mental health part, we're in a season now where everybody got mental health problems. It's on a rise currently. If we really look and see what the peak is, what the catalyst is, I'm sure you will find in there somewhere the lack of connection. People are very attached to these right here and not attached to people in front of them in real life. And so I think that is where the problem is. And so just diving into that part, right? For you all, where do you find social connection being beneficial in your life?
I mean, I'll go first. And I'll take my answer from a business owner with a business that brings people together essentially for a common purpose. So with the gym, obviously, it's group fitness. So there's multiple people in a class. And since we've been open for the last, just over 2 years, we've seen friendships, romantic relationships, like best of friends, coworkers coming to do something together outside work, flourish through a service of us providing, a training program for them to come and not only get physically fit, but it helps with the mental, but it also helps with the aspect that you're talking about on the social connections. And that has transitioned to outside the gym, whether it's, at the socials or it's them just hanging out outside of the gym, but they met at that common place. So I think it's extremely important because I've seen it kind of from the back end of what connecting between other individuals can do and can produce for other people. And that's why I've kind of come from a perspective of kind of from behind the scenes and just seeing the benefits of obviously, physically working out with other people in class and knowing, hey, that person on my left is going through the same hard crap right now that I'm going through. And it's going to push me a little bit more because I know the other 25 or 24 people in class with me are going through the exact same thing, and we're all here to get better. And then that has continued outside where people are, hanging out and bettering their lives, getting new jobs. And that's only in one gym in Nashville. So just from my standpoint, in 2.5 years, it's been amazing just to see the power of connections and what that can do for individuals, but also, small collective groups that form up as well.
Yeah, I think it's extremely. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna ask, Photop, are you one that do you like to work it? And I probably know the answer to this, but just for our audience, I mean, do you find that energy just going above and beyond than if you were to just work out by yourself? Like, do you find that you and maybe the others that you've cultivated in this gym community that you guys have built up, do you feel like there is commonality between everyone and preferring to work out with one another? I mean, is that a thing? Do you think that energy?
Yeah. I mean, my personal story, that's the whole reason I got into group fitness. I was the Monday through Friday guy, just continuing what I did in school, and then eventually got tired of it. And found kind of the accountability is what drew me in. There's other people doing the same thing that I was doing. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it provides an environment for motivation, encouragement, even though it may be silent. But I think like just seeing other people around with you doing the same thing is a tremendous accountability partner, a motivational partner, encouragement partner. And it helps people kind of stick to a routine. So I think providing a group atmosphere helps boost that as far as, the question that you asked.
Yeah. It pushes you a lot more too, right? Because the other guys hold each other accountable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even with that 75 hard, like me and Ty, like I knew that text message was coming through 9:00 at night. So it made me accountable. Like I'm not going to be that guy to fall through. But to answer your question, I think connections in my life, obviously it's changed my life just in like just the workspace, right? Just meeting and greeting people, always building those relationships. It's built lifelong customers. It's built a career for myself, just knowing Joe Tagey from the Kia dealership and him taking me to the Lexus dealership. If I wasn't a person that he was intrigued in or thought that could have made something out of myself, then he would never offer me that position at Lexus. And who knows where I would be at, right? I'd probably still be at Walmart. Like, you never know exactly like how our paths take course. So I think it's important to, cherish every connection that you make and know that it might be bigger purpose in that connection, and understanding that, everything happens for a reason.
I'd agree with that. I'd also say that there's a massive difference between connection and depth. And for me to elaborate a little bit more, I'm connected with hundreds of people, thousands of people, right? I mean, across my personal and work related life. But depth, and I've tried to use this, I've tried to instill this more into all facets of my life, but depth, having intentionality behind relationships, right? Like truly caring about other individuals and wanting to get to know them without any, ulterior motive, right? I mean, when you're really trying to get to know someone and get to the root of it and having a strong connection, you're going deep and you're being personal. And I also like to say that, like all of us probably, as we've gotten older, our circles have gotten smaller to an extent, and we want to just focus that depth around people that are going to create good energy and going to want to push us, right, and be better individuals. And I like to call them 3 a.m. friends. I mean, how many people do we have in our corners that you can truly call at 3 a.m. and say, hey, I got locked up, or hey, I'm in a pickle, and they're going to come and get you because of that depth. That's not just connection. Yes, it's connection, but it's on a whole nother level, right? So I think that's another aspect of this conversation is the depth of the relationships that we're willing to bring on nowadays.
Yeah, and Kenny, I'll just ask you a question off of that. Like, how important is it to you, from being 18 years old, having all those immediate connections of like knowing when to cut off a quote unquote deeper connection that isn't no longer serving you at the next season of life, if that makes sense?
That's a really good question, Photop, because that's been a tougher one for me. I think as of the last 4 or 5 years, I think I've probably held on to relationships just given history or whatever the reason, right? Probably a multitude of reasons. But I think the biggest one is realizing that once you let that person go, and I think we touched on this in an early episode, you can still love individuals from afar. Doesn't mean that you have to have the same depth with that person. It still doesn't mean that you have to have the same cadence of getting together. You can alter that connection or relationship because if it's not going to help, if it's not going to be a win-win, it's not going to be good for either of you, right? In terms of that negative energy, and that's okay. People grow, people change, people evolve, and like Cope was saying, I think every connection comes in your life for a rhyme or reason. Some are meant to stay there for years and decades, and some others maybe just a season in your life. But I don't know. I guess to answer your question, the 18-year-old me just wanted to be friendly with everyone and make as many connections as possible. And as I've gotten older, I've really evaluated that depth and is it good for myself? Is it good for the other person for us to continue that sort of relationship?
100%.
Yeah, people can be in your life for a season. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person or that it ended on bad grounds. They just was there for that season. And then you have to just keep moving on to that next chapter.
Yeah.
So we're talking about having depth in these connections, depth in these relationships. I guess for you guys, because oftentimes it's harder for us to get vulnerable, even with those relationships we have within depth, right? At what point did you all get comfortable with being vulnerable with those connections you're referring to, Kenny, in terms of the ones you actually have? There is some fruit established, some blood was shed with these individuals. Well, at what point did you feel comfortable with fully opening up and being vulnerable, crying, sharing things you wouldn't share with many people? And when doing so, how did that help you? Or did it help you?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a number of things, just given the dynamic of that individual relationship. If I had to boil it down to two things, it's, do I care more than the other individual about that relationship? And that's one aspect. And I'll take that a step further. Do I care about that individual's own success or own well-being even more than that individual does for themselves? So there's kind of multiple layers in that. Then the other aspect of this, D, is life's too short. And I think I'm learning that more and more as life goes on, and holding grudges in life. And then also just what I was saying about the negative energy is life's way too short to have someone in your life that's going to drag you down. Who knows how long we're going to be on this earth? Hopefully for four of us, it's going to be, decades to come, but it's not promised, right? Who knows what God's going to have in store. So just knowing that framework, why not surround yourself with 5 or 10 individuals that's going to be worth, thousands, right? They're the equivalent to 1,000 people in your corner if you have 5 or 10 really strong folks. So I think it's two. It's evaluating the relationship. Are you giving a lot more than receiving or getting out of it? And then 2, it's just, for me, life's too short, and just recognizing, I'm better off, sad to say. And those might be tough, but just coming to grips with that finally the last few years.
When do you decide to be vulnerable to somebody, though?
Yeah, I think you missed the question.
So elaborate a little bit.
So what I was asking was, at what point did you decide to open up to the ones you chose to keep around? Open up and fully reveal yourself, fully reveal who you are, your soft points, your weaknesses, those kind of things. When did you put your shield down, and who you do that with?
Yeah, I'll answer the second part first. And who you do it with, it's people that are aligned with where you want to go in life, right? I mean, it's for me personally, I've surrounded myself with individuals around me that are good people. They're family oriented. They're only bringing good vibes. They don't have negative outlooks on life. And so I've kind of, over the years, I've gravitated more towards those individuals because we've aligned goals, we've aligned values, we've shared experiences or conversations, right? Which I have with the three of you on certain degrees at certain points. And with those individuals that I haven't, I guess answering the question about being vulnerable is that there could have been a situation that came into effect that just said, finally cut the straw, right? And broke the camel's back, just saying, hey, this isn't going to work anymore. Just given, doesn't matter what we've been through. It's this direction that we're going forward. And those are tough conversations. Usually it's an event. And I don't know if that's the right approach because you probably want to get in front of it before shit hits the fan, kind of, right? So I'm just sharing what's happened with me. It's typically been an event or, a situation where people got to have candid conversations. You just got to look one another in the eye and be like, does this make sense? For us to continue that way.
Yeah. And I'll double back on that and take a different perspective of the vulnerability aspect with the close people. I think it starts with yourself as the individual being comfortable with who you are and comfortable in the aspects of the vulnerability. I know DeMichael, this probably started for us at the back with Chris back in the day around the dinner table, right? So I think it comes to a point. Yes, you have your circle, you have your close friends, like Kenny was talking about. But I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable with those people starts when you're okay with your ego and your confidence in yourself to share those things. So it's one thing to have the connections and the deep connections, obviously the people that you want to share the vulnerable aspects of yourself with, but you internally have to be okay with sharing those things, knowing that a Kenny, a Cope, a DeMichael is going to reciprocate that back to me, maybe show me some empathy, but also show me like some direction or maybe something I need to hear, So I think it starts internally with yourself, making sure, I'm okay with letting somebody know about this and it's not going to tear me down. And then for me, knowing that the person I'm going to share it with is someone that's going to understand and can have a real conversation about it.
Like that. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I still struggle with being vulnerable to the friends. Like, it takes a lot, like, out of me to be vulnerable. And I don't know if it's probably deep-rooted trust issues with that. I think it's more so, like, I'm being vulnerable right now, like, with even giving that insight of myself. But, like, to really dig in deep and, like, allow someone to really truly understand me, I have a guard. And that guard is always up until like I really truly feel comfortable with someone. So like I have a select few people in my life, obviously, that that I'm able to be vulnerable with, and that they understand like the way I move, the way I like react to certain things. But it takes a lot for me to actually express myself in that regard.
That's honest. And thank you for sharing that as well. Right. This is a healthy, safe space, my brother. You can share everything that's within you. So I think vulnerability is something that's very tough for a lot of men. And I asked that question because we're talking about connections. And I read something earlier talked about how important it is for mental health and the longevity of your life. And I think oftentimes people lack the capacity to have strong mental health because they don't have the right connections that they can come to and share, or they can come to and be vulnerable with to get empathy or get love, get truth, if you will. I think folks discover that at different points in their life. Folks never discover. I think I didn't come honestly into that space of being comfortable with being truly vulnerable until like later on in my life. I'm not old. Later on in my life, but more so like my early 20s and so mid 20s. But I think it stemmed from like you. I grew up in a space where I knew it was love, but it wasn't always spoken from the males in my family. My grandfather, my great grandfather, my father, my grandfathers later on they got softer and hugged you, but you didn't often hear "I love you" a lot. I say "I love you" to people who I love often. I tell all my boys I love them all the time. I don't care if the things were not, because I want them to understand and express and understand that, hey, you may not, you're gonna hear from me. I love you. Like I truly love you. And I think, and honestly, I discovered this. I told my therapist, we're doing premarital counseling, but we're going back and like diving into a lot of different things. And I discovered a lot of things I do now is part due to what I didn't receive. My parents were amazing, but we didn't have you didn't get a lot of softness in the household. I think that affects a lot of men because they grow up and they go through life just being hard, and you got a lot of men out here hurting who look like they tough, but inside they're really broken. And I think when you can have that safe space, or you have a woman who can show you, hey, you can be vulnerable around me. You have some women who use that against you as well, which is evil as hell. So you can't even be soft with your woman because then you get in an argument and she pull up things to her when you was in a vulnerable place. You know what I'm saying? Like, God damn, I can't even tell you nothing either. So it's
Right.
But that's real though. And it's like I think a lot of men, I think men are at the highest rate of suicide. All right, that's real. And I think a lot of that comes down to the lack of true connection and the inability of being vulnerable and just sharing. Hey man, I'm hurting right now. I am truly hurting right now. I need you. And I think we need more people. And I think now we are in a place now where mental health is discussed a whole lot more. I think it is okay for folks to be more vulnerable. It isn't talked down a lot as it once was. But I think that's one good thing about we are in society. We need to move more too. But I think that's a very powerful thing. I think that shows strength, not weakness. You can be vulnerable. And that opens the door to people who you are being vulnerable with. Say, hey, damn, I can also be vulnerable with him because he's being vulnerable with me. Right? I feel like connections it's a purpose behind that. Right? It gives you the ability to care for other people. And I feel like me and Brandon heard this all the time in a previous life, to where like they always say, when you're going through something, when you're able to focus on someone else's problems, you're able to help somebody else get through their time, their trauma, you often get through yours as well. Because you aren't thinking about it no more. You aren't focused on you no more. You're focused on somebody else. So the pain you're going through kind of subsides. It's still there, but then that just goes away because you aren't focusing just on you anymore. Right? Your purpose is now about caring for others. And in doing so, you're helping yourself. I believe that piece from that standpoint. But vulnerability is important, man. So I think as far as parenting styles, Brandon, you got a little girl, so I imagine you probably a little softer with her. But if you guys are blessed to have sons, right? How are you going to treat your son? What kind of love are you going to show your sons?
So Tracy and I actually just talked about this at Saturday night at dinner, because I was like, we were having a friendly conversation of, on the second kid, like, are we going to love it as much as the first kid? Obviously joking around, but like,
Yeah.
it's a different dynamic, right? And we came.
You weren't joking.
The boy, I probably wasn't joking. Yeah. The little boy's got my finger wrapped, but we came to the conclusion that love is unconditional. So the love is going to be the same. Maybe it's shown in different ways. Maybe, and I don't know what that is yet because I don't have a second child at this time. But like, the love may be different, but it's going to be unconditional no matter which child it is, right? The way you raise that kid may be a little bit different. Obviously, once they're out of the toddler stage and, they start developing physically different or mentally different, they start coming up with their own ideas and their own talking points, then maybe raising the child is going to be a little bit different. But the love that you have for both of them has to be unconditional because they're one of you, right? So that's kind of the conclusion we came to. But in addition, like tying it back to the relationships aspect, is I want to introduce my kid to as many good people as I possibly can. From the start, like from the jump, we're bringing her everywhere we go and introducing her to our friends and our family that we trust and that we love. So she can see that now, and see what unconditional love looks like, see what proper relationships look like, see what business relationships look like. So even though she's like a year and a half, it's still in her brain now. And by the time she's 5, 6, 7, she'll know, like, when I go hang out with Will, like, Brent's going to hang out with his business partner and he's a good guy. You know what I'm saying? So from the relationship aspect, I think that's the approach I'm going to take, is just making sure that I'm inclusive and showing them, what real connection looks like. But especially that unconditional love piece is going to help out with those connections as well.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll go quick. Tough love was a very big thing if you guys know anything about Eastern Europeans. I mean, my grandparents is the stereotypical, they were, God bless their souls. But, in terms of like the Russian, Ukrainian mold of like, everything that you can imagine. Like, we walk in the door, my dad would just be getting, cursed at, right off the jump. And, they were very loving towards the grandchildren. They would always come but in terms of like what I saw, the dynamic between my grandparents, they were great people. But, it was always like cursing at. It was very much like a tough love scenario, right? I don't think I ever heard my grandfather tell my dad that he loved him, but I knew that he did. It was kind of one of those, right, in that household. And I think there's a balance is what I'm getting at. Like, I always knew that they, had that love and whatnot, but it was never said. It was never spoken. But so I think there is a balance between being tough because you want to raise your kids tough in this world just because it's brutal out here, right? So you want to have that balance between, let's go face the world because it's not going to be all roses and sunshines 24/7. So have that tough edge, but just know that no matter what, you're going to be in their corner and you love them, and reinforcing that, I think, is going to be incredibly important, if I'm willing to have kids one day with Amy. So I don't know. It's a balance because I've seen the extremes, not so much with myself personally, but more so on like a grandparent and my parents' dynamic. My parents were much better. I think, and then it's getting softer as generations get passed down. But yeah, I think I think there's a balance there, right, between being tough and showing it a little bit more.
100%.
Yeah, I definitely had both sides as well, but I feel like I had, like, my upbringing was great. Like, I have a very close family to this day. Like, I'm the youngest out of 5. I have 12 nieces and nephews, aunts, uncles, everyone. Like, we have a very close family, but I think there's levels of being vulnerable. So, like, when I was saying, like, being vulnerable, I'm talking about actually opening up and telling somebody truly what's going on in your life, right? I think a lot of us put a guard up. And I know I put that guard up just because, like, you don't want everyone to know everything about you, especially how I was raised, like, right? We were raised to, keep your head up high, regardless of where you're at, act like you've been there before. Like, that's how I was taught, right? So me being able to open up to somebody is extremely hard. until I can truly trust them and not them receive that information and then tell someone else what I'm going through. Because we live in a society now that I can tell one person one thing and then they go share your information, right? So you never know exactly how much that person's going to really, what they're going to do with that information, if that makes sense. So like, to answer your question, like, yeah, being vulnerable is one thing, but I just think it's truly levels to it. Just because, like, yeah, we might say, hey, I like my friends, my family, I love you to death. I'll tell them all day long. Like, you know, before, like if I'm in St. Pete, I'm telling Kenny I love him before I leave, right? Like we're doing that constantly. But actually telling somebody truly what's going on in your life, it's a different level to it.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's some people in my family I wouldn't even tell what the hell going on.
They're gonna tell Aunt Lisa. They're gonna tell Aunt Nessa. They're gonna say, "Look, the mic
like, damn, bro! I just told you 10 minutes ago. How the hell everybody find out?
Right.
Goodness gracious.
Right.
No, that's real though. Like you got me. Yeah. So yeah, no, that part is very real as far as having a discernment around who to go to and who to tell. But I think we sometimes we learn the hard way. Sometimes you just know how people are. You know who can I really go to.
It's important. It's important and critical, though, I'd say. And I'd actually even go on a limb and say it's absolutely necessary to have at least someone to be able to go to, because everything that you listed off earlier to Mike around mental health issues and suicide rates, you know, among young men and this and that, it's because the data is often telling us that they don't have anyone to go to a lot of the times. And so I think it's critical, even if it's one person, critical to even have one person in your corner that you can share something to and vent, because once that builds up, that's when bad things happen, occur either to yourself or others around you. And I'm a strong, I mean, look, we're animals that for thousands of years, we were all in a tribe mentality, right? I mean, we thrive off connection to survive. I mean, that's how humans back in the day, that's why we are the way that we are. I think we're around connections is because we literally had to leverage each other to survive out here. And I think it's just evolved obviously over the centuries. But yeah, I say it's critical for people to have at least one person, you know, even if it's a therapist. If you don't have anyone else to go, you know, in your life, at least seek after someone, right?
Yeah. I was actually just watching a podcast like probably a couple months ago, and they're two set of friends, and they were just saying that they have a code that if they text one of them and say, do you have 7 minutes? They have to stop what they're doing and they'll call that person, right? Like whatever they're doing, they'll stop. And like, I don't care if it's 1 a.m. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. They say, oh, do you have 7 minutes? And they answer the phone. Like, and just like Kenny was saying earlier, that 3 a.m. friend, right? We only probably have a select few of 3 a.m. friends that can call you regardless of the situation. They're going to be there. So I think it is important just to at least have one person or a few people it's in your corner that can, like, you know, hear you vent, hear you get through it, and try to walk with you through it.
That's dope. I like that. That's dope. That's a bond right there. That's a bond. Honestly, it has somebody that you have that true connection with. You're like, yo, listen, 7 minutes, and they drop everything that comes to you. Everybody won't do that. And you oftentimes can figure out, well, and when you're going through some stuff, you can figure out who's really there for you, like who's really there for you. And sometimes the answer can be painful, but you gotta figure that thing out sometimes. But that's a good conversation. So in terms of wrapping this thing up, is there anything, all right, any other pieces that you think we're missing around this conversation that you want to dive into that we haven't dove into yet? Be vulnerable about the fact that Philly suck. We haven't that part we really discussed it. Maybe we could dive into that part.
I'll bet you $500 that the Phillies win on Saturday when I'm there in person. So we make that bet offline.
Who they playing?
Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, go win that. Come on. Well, the Guardians kind of good. I don't know.
They're the Guardians are the third best team in the league.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Baseball's so tough because like, man, these cats they look good on Friday, they get killed by 12 on Saturday, and then win by 10 on Sunday. It's like ain't no consistency when it comes to baseball. I hate betting on baseball. It kills me every time. Call the gambling helpline if you need help. Number is 1-800. Get some damn help.
I've been smacking them on baseball. That's for
for real?
episode.
Oh, yeah.
Another episode.
Yeah, he has. He said he retiring.
Are you retiring?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Look, hey, yo, honestly, Kenny
Hey, job. He just going.
Hey,
he just
Kenny is a sniper, bro. Like doing football season, and he be quiet with it too. He
I got no text.
Like $1,000
Text.
I want $2,000. Like, bro, what's the play? He said no play.
He's running out numbers now. He's crazy.
I mean, you ain't saying what you're doing. You just putting plays in, and they saying
They gonna
nothing.
find out we all degenerates.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the important connection right there. Kenny's supposed to be connecting with us and letting us know.
Kenny.
You know, you need to be vulnerable. You need to be able to go in depth, be honest, transparent, right? We're just sharing with our viewers.
It's being real, man. Being real. But this is good. This is good. So again, connection, human connection is important. We close out. One more thing I saw on here from Ramsey Solutions. Ramsey Solutions did support May 9th. It was fresh. May 9th, 2024, on the importance of human connection. It says research suggests that humans are shaped by the social environment and can suffer when their social bonds are threatened or severed. That comes back to the suicide piece of it. And just anxiety and depression. It says, in fact, neglecting our need to connect can put our health at risk. While technology can seem to connect us, it also can disconnect us from nature, ourselves, and others. Face-to-face interaction is important for thriving, and technology should enhance that connection to others, not replace it. And right now, it is replacing it, and that is creating a problem in this country, in this world. And hopefully, at some point, it could be fixed. But thank you all for your time. Until next time, y'all have a great day. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers. Don't do drugs, y'all.
Don't do drugs. Go buy a Dare shirt and don't do drugs. Peace.